Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? Thank you guys for joining us. I want to go ahead and thank you guys for joining the Canadian Latin Music Week presented by Latinx Nation. We have two very important guests with us today from Earshot. So I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Go ahead. You go first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barry Rooke. I'm the Executive Director from the National Campus and Community Radio Association. We'll tell you a little bit more about who we are and as we get into the presentation and everything as well. But I'm also joined here by Eloissa.
Yes, I do the marketing and coordinating for Earshot.
Amazing. So could you guys give me a little bit of a backstory on your company, when you guys started the company, and what projects you've been working with, or what would you say has been the highlight of your company so far?
Yeah, so the overall organization is called the National Campus and Community Radio Association. We have 121 radio stations across Canada that are members of ours. Each of those are independent, nonprofit radio stations. So they're, by the people, for the people type thing. There's no commercialization to it. Sure, they make some money and they sell advertising as well, but it's really all about showcasing music and content and news and stories and so on, which is a really amazing place to be able to work in. So that's the organization as a whole. Earshot Distro is one of our wings. So we have sort of a music brand that connects with things. We started with a national charting system about 15 years ago or so, where when songs were played on the radio stations, they were then submitted to a national charts, and there's a full chart system available. So if you get played on a couple of stations across the country, which Earshot Distro can help you with, you end up possibly getting on those charts, and those charts help with various fundraising sides of things and awareness, and plus it's also nice to be on a national chart. So the distro program itself is relatively new. We fully launched in November of 2020. We've been in development of the software program for about 4 or 5 years now, with quite a few partners all across the country. Groups like the Government of Canada pitched in money through Factor. SOCAN put some money in. The Community Radio Fund of Canada has helped with us. Creative BC in British Columbia. And together we've been able to put together this solution that hopefully helps artists and labels and distribution companies get their music into the hands of radio stations.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that information with all of us. So what would you guys say the approach is for a new artist that wants to start working with you guys? Like, what would be the approach that they would take to get their music played on the radio?
Eloissa, you got this one.
Yes. Well, using Distro, it's a great way to get started, get a way to connect with stations. We know from both sides that it's very overwhelming connecting with them. On the radio station side, they get millions of emails every day. They get millions, so it's very overwhelming on their side. And for artists who don't want to get like their word out there, it's just very hard. Who are you emailing? Are you emailing the right things? Are they gonna reply back? Do they like this stuff? It's always a bit of a guessing game, and with the system, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for both sides to be able to communicate and come together in a way that's beneficial for both. Because radio stations are looking for music, artists want their music to get played, so it seems pretty straightforward. But I know there's a lot of mishaps along the way, so we just try to make it easier for them.
As easy as it can for them. And how would you say that it is different from? Would you say that it still helps, and it helps even more so in terms of the manager, when like the manager is trying to get radio placement for the artist? Would you say that your company can also? Do you guys work with managers as well? What is it that you guys can offer for the managers who are trying to get their radio, but they're also trying to gain experience in how to make an approach?
And I think as we go through a bit of a presentation here, you'll be able to get the finer details on some of the best practices of how we suggest you do that. It's a good starting point here. We've actually just done a study looking at how radio in all of Canada was receiving music, and what are some of the best ways to be able to get on. And Eloissa will go over some of that details as we get to the end of the process as well. But I think, a starting point would be to decide, is sending content to radio something you want to do, because it is not as simple as uh, using the promo code at the bottom here, creating an account, logging in, uploading music, and then waiting for your royalties and your music plays to come forward. There's a bit of business and relationship building and all that has to happen, whether you're an artist, whether you're a music manager. And hopefully the presentation that we go through will give you some of those best practices and tips in order to be able to make it easier for you, at least to get involved. So we encourage anybody that has the rights to upload the content that they've produced or they work with to put content into the system. So obviously, if you don't have that permission, or for example, you're uploading a cover that you don't have the royalty rights to and anything of that nature, then we'd ask you not to do that. But if you're an artist, a record label, music manager, and you have the permission to do it, we think this is a pretty good first step to get into the hands of over 50 stations and producers pretty quickly.
Okay, amazing. I'm excited to see the presentation that you guys have prepared for all of us, for the audience, managers, artists, labels. We're all excited. So you can go ahead and get started.
Excellent. So we'll load up here for everybody to see. This is a presentation. So for those that are interested in accessing it, you should be able to find it online as well as through the recording. So you won't need to take any notes or anything of that nature, unless, of course, something pops up to you and you want to follow along. It'll be available for you to see as well. So yeah, Ozzy, if you're there and you want to share that screen, we could go ahead and do that. So as noted, we'll tell you a little bit about us. What is Earshot Distro? How to use the Distro platform. We'll walk you through it. Some best practices. Eloissa has been working away on our report for that and be able to share some. And then getting more out of the stations, because they're not just radio stations that are looking for content. There's a lot more that happens in that process there as well. So as I mentioned, this is our team. So I'm the executive director at the National Campus Community Radio Association. Luke Smith's not with us tonight, but he's our director of learning and development. And then Eloissa here does our marketing and outreach, both for the radio side of things, but also for Earshot Distro. And if you have any questions for using the Distro platform, she'll be your contact when you start reaching out and connecting with us. So it's a pretty small team. We are a small nonprofit, have been operating. I've been here for 7 years now, and the program itself has been developed over the last 4 or 5 years of time and sort of put into place, and as I said earlier, launched in November of 2022. So slightly dated. As of today, we just passed 121 radio stations. They're all completely independent. They either have what's called a campus, community, or indigenous license. They can be on AM, FM, or online. Typically, staff or volunteers are the ones that oversee the content, and it's often independent hosts who pick what gets played. Some of the stations act kind of like a commercial radio station, where a music director will listen to music, decide, okay, I like this, it fits this style, we put it into this pool of music that gets played. It gets played for X number of weeks, or stays in their pooling category for a long time, and then at some point maybe gets dropped out. Others have, and that's more of the sort of the traditional commercial style of things. Others have programmers who are playing content brand new every week. They're out hunting, finding great new songs, and are often looking for something new to reach. And often that type of programming is very niche and unique. So if you're doing a different style of genre, it's usually those specialty artists that are found by and connected by this group of, expert-driven hosts, because you won't find reggae, for example, on mainstream Canadian media, but you'll find a reggae show on almost every community radio station in the country. It's quite interesting. So there's a map very quickly of where our members are located, and you can see they go way up north, east, west, and there's 3 associations. There's a French one in Quebec. There's a French one outside of Quebec. Our network has 121 stations all over the country, everywhere but Prince Edward Island, because there just isn't a station there. And then there's a couple of independent ones as well. So if you add stations together, it's about 180 nonprofit radio stations in Canada, another 50 or 60 Indigenous radio stations that are licensed. So there's a lot of content and a lot of places to be able to get your music on. And it obviously seems a little daunting, and that's sort of why we've put the program here together to help out. So I do want to mention one thing as we sort of get into it. There are copyright that's associated with things. So like you said, you need to own the rights to be able to upload the music. There is a charge. We'll come back to that in a bit. It's quite small, but that goes towards the radio stations. That charge goes towards us to manage the system. The radio stations pay the SOCAN, which is the Society of Composers and Artists in Canada. So if you're getting played on radio, this is the group that collects the royalties and pays it out to you. And then, like I said, they hand it back to the artist. So it's really a circle where a small amount of costs here to get you onto the system will hopefully get you a small amount of money back from the radio station that plays it. And SOCAN should be paying you for that work. So it should help grow and develop. Now, if you're on commercial radio, you're going to get more money because they pay a lot higher tariff rates and all that kind of stuff. But we're often a very important starting place for when it comes to artists trying to sort of make a break into the music industry. So a little bit on the competitors, the costs, and so on here as well. Eloissa, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, so some of the other alternative distribution systems are, believe it or not, mail-ins. People still mail in to stations, CDs, the recording tapes and stuff like that. And it really touches on a thing we wanted to tackle early on, was the environmental impact of all this manufacturing. It costs money to create a CD. It costs money to mail it out. It costs time and effort to find who you're mailing it to. And then sometimes you don't even hear back. You don't even know if it's processed. And then you don't even know if the person that you send it to even heard of it, liked it. Sometimes it's hard to hear back because of COVID as well. A lot of the stations have been working from home. So even if you mail stuff to the station's location, they might not even see it for months on end. So that was one thing that we wanted to tackle on as well. And then some more typical approaches are emails. You go to a radio station, you look up their info, and then you look up their email, and that's how you reach out to them. Some other popular ones that are Kangaroo and Play MVP.
So those are sort of the alternatives to our Earshot distro system. They mostly service the commercial market as well, but there are a few of our member stations that use them also.
Yeah, so the cost for Earshot, it is $7 for an individual song. Now, you don't get charged when you sign up or anything. You can sign up to the system, check it out, look around, browse, and you get only charged when you do the uploading process of it. So it's $7 for an individual song, and then $50 for an album, which we categorize from 8 to 20 songs. And then what you get for participating in this presentation, obviously you get the referral code, which is when you sign up, you just copy that in there, and it will give you 25% off on, I believe, the first 5 uploads, and then 5% after the 10 uploads after that for and then coupons. We always have some event or marketing thing going on our social media. So if you want to look for coupons and stuff like that, we try to do that often because we want to obviously incentivize artists to try it out. But, yeah.
And as we're saying, a lot of the reason why we've done this, and there's still a small charge for the artist who's uploading, is that we're trying our best to make sure we reduce costs. So if you were going to be sending out 100 CDs to 100 radio stations, $5 a CD is very generous for that, let alone the time. You can almost reach that number of artists and radio stations with a $50 upload minus the discount you have here, plus contacts and so on, feedback that comes into place. So that's one of the main reasons why we went through this process. And, there's reasons to look at a group like Yangaroo or DMDS for uploading content if you want. But again, they're more commercial, and you're starting at the $500 mark for those types of things. And not necessarily our sector doesn't really engage too much in those types of platforms, but there are obviously commercial artists that do. And if you're trying to make a push for more commercial radio or the CBC, those types of platforms are probably going to be also beneficial for you to take a look at as well. As I mentioned, we do have an Earshot Charts system, and it's a good thing for you to try to get on the charts. So what the charts will end up doing is, if you go back to Factor, if you're a member of Factor, which is the Canadian funding group, you can actually respond and show them that you've charted, and that will go into your portfolio when you're trying to increase your awareness and sort of level you up. So if you were a D-type artist, you maybe will be able to move to a C, and the difference between those sections could be, $5,000 from help to support making your station, your album, versus $50,000 to put together a small tour that goes along with it. So pretty important to be able to do that. And that chart is run by our stations, and it is our content that goes on the chart. So there's an example from a couple years ago. We did an analysis of songs at the end of 2020, and of the top 200 songs on the year, 153 were Canadian. So our stations are looking for Canadian content. And yes, they're not directly tied with each other, Earshot Charts and Earshot Distro. So uploading on Distro doesn't mean you're going to make it onto the charts. But there is that connection when it comes to the possibilities of getting on. And we are in the process of trying to address and automate this, so that charts and sending to SOCAN for royalty payments will be done automatically. And we're getting a little bit closer to that process happening. So that will give you more access to making it, if you're on there, and maybe some of the stations that didn't report to the charts now, you'll hopefully make that. And like I said, the SOCAN fees are beneficial as well. So we do have the French language has been expanded, and the website and the service are fully bilingual on the French side of things. The website, earshot-distro.ca, has a multi-language selector as well. We're hoping to expand in 2022 to the US. I'll have to update these. We're waiting on a response back right now. There is a solution where you can check a box while you're inside Distro and actually allow people to use podcasts. And we're just finishing up adding a distribution system inside Earshot Distro for completed radio shows as well. So we're rolling in what we call the community radio exchange into it, where hosts can share full radio shows with other radio stations. And we're working with groups like Library and Archives Canada as sort of a national archive. And we hope to have some more information from them in the next little while, but the next step sort of forward. So that's sort of that realm. So what I'd like to do is give you a quick walkthrough of Earshot Distro, and give you a chance to be able to see any of those, how you would log in and create an account and start your upload process there. So this should take about 10-15 minutes. We'll have some time when we're done here for a bunch of questions, and Eloissa will go over some other best practices as well. If there are questions, feel free to use the comments section on the side. I'll keep that open, and I'll do my best to be able to respond if it makes sense for doing so. So Earshot distro.ca is the website. Earshot-distro.ca, sorry, is the website. And when you land on the page, you'll see that there's a variety of links at the top for you to select. You're going to sign up. And when you hit the sign up button, let me see if I can just zoom this in a little bit closer so it's not as small. When you're on the sign up button, you're going to either sign up as a label or a distributor. If you have multiple artists that you're working under, you should do that one. If you want to keep it nice and simple and easy, the independent artist is a single artist, and you just select sign up from there. You're just going to put your name, your email in, and that's where you put your promotional code that you have right along the bottom of the screen here. And that will give you the 25% off your first 10 uploads or so, and then a permanent discount afterwards as well. I'm going to just log in because I've already been logged in and created an account before, so we won't have to go through that process. But I do want you to see sort of what the inside looks like. So when you land, you're going to land on a dashboard. This dashboard is for multiple independent art, not the independent artist, but the record label account. So we can see all the different artists. We can see if they've had people interact with them. You can see the total number of songs. You can view their song list. You can view their profiles. We also have here an upload songs button, and this is how you would start to create your own release to be able to be put public and live. I'll very quickly click on the recent interactions just so you can see how this works. What it does is it gives you an identifier of what these 3 interactions are. Things like if someone has listened to your song, if someone has downloaded or released it, or if someone has said that they're going to support the song. So you can see that they'll tell you what the station is, if someone listened to it, the name of the song, and when that happened. And you can sort of keep track of who's done what and when. And there's possibilities for follow-ups and so on. So it's a good little device to see if your content has been picked up or not. If you get a listen and you don't get a download, it's most likely they listened to the song and decided to pass on it. And if you get one that says support, that means that they've probably really liked your stuff, and they're sort of telling you manually that they're going to be putting it in to their rotation or playing it or so. So if I go back to the dashboard here, like I said, along the top, you've got a couple of options. There's one for where all of your songs are laid. There's one for where all of your artists are kept and their artist profile. Then you've got this thing called releases. And how we do it in this section is you have to have an artist, you have to have a release, and then your songs go in the release. So think of it as like a little CD or the base for a pizza, right? You got to have that base there before you put the toppings on, which are the songs. So you have to have all of those put together in order for everything to work itself out. I'll come back to messaging and outreach. The help button takes you to our help support page, which gives you a full walkthrough. So very similar recording to what we have here. We have a 15-page handbook. We have FAQs. We have some other videos that were put up to help. So if you run into any problems, it's probably outlined there. But also there is that connection through email to chat with Eloissa or myself through the support section, and we'll try to get back to you within a relatively fair time. I would say it's usually 1 to 2 business days. But again, it is just the 2 of us, and weekends, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of time off. You can adjust your organizational settings. So this is where you can add people to your account and change names and so on, update your passwords. And then again, organizational settings here. If you want, you can add people as staff or regular administrators or whatnot, so that other people can do the work for uploading or seeing what songs are happening and whatnot. So if you're a label, it's a great way to be able to delegate that kind of work to other people as well. Logos, names, all those sort of basic things that when you sign up, you'll be filling this information out as well. So if I go back to the dashboard here, I'm going to start very quickly with upload songs. So this is where we recommend as a starting point. It'll walk you through a upload tutorial. The first thing it asks you to do is to either collect or select or create an artist. If you click create an artist, you'll find that it's asking you for things like the name, alias, bio, a nice photo, the town, and the province. If you put in a town, you can't select Canada wide. It'll give you an error. We highly recommend you put in your local location, which you would call yourself here in Canada, as a space, because people are searching for local artists. If you put Canada wide, that's great, but you're going to miss that local aspect for what people are looking for. And it's not restricting you from others to find your content. It's not like, oh, I said I'm from Edmonton, therefore nobody from St. John's is going to find me. It's still available for everyone as you go through. So rather than creating an artist, I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to select my friend Adam Nix because I always use him. Then what it asks for the next thing is to create a release or select a release. Again, if I click create a release, this is sort of the basics of things. Think of it as what you're putting on the CD, right? So it could have one, it could have 100 songs. I think we limit it to 20. So it could have 1 or 20 songs, somewhere in between. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to be putting a title of the release. You're going to select your artist again. We'd like some artwork at about the 2000 by 2000 pixels so that it's nice and people can access it. The type of release is where your costs are going to be. So if you're doing more than 8 songs, we suggest you select album, or if it's a mixed group of artists, you select compilation. If you're doing less than 8 songs, a single or an EP, again, they don't really matter. But when you get to the process, what you don't want to do is upload 20 songs at $7 under the single, because then you're going to get charged 20 times 7 as opposed to getting it all for 50. The clean context required is related to lyrics. So we encourage you, if you upload a song that does have explicit lyrics, you tag it as explicit and upload a secondary radio-friendly version. There's no quicker way to get your music pulled from a radio station to have some inappropriate content get played at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they were not expecting that to pop up. So something pretty important to note as well. As we said, you can do city or genre if you're trying to get really specific. So this is different than the artist. So, it will help with that sort of discoverability. Genre, there's 3 options. So you would be picking your main genre, and then you can choose if you would like a subgenre and then even a hypergenre. So you can drill yourself down to really detailed information. And this is important on the search function, because if I'm looking for French house and I select French house on the search, I'm only going to find artists that are in French house. But let's say I select, I'm looking for electronica artists. I select electronic artists and I will find all of the songs and the genres that are found in the subgenres and the hypergenres. So we suggest you go as deep as you can, because again, it's not limiting you, it's helping with discoverability. You can put in name. I know they're from Edmonton. And again, we'll be putting in a province. The public release date is the date in which artists listeners can buy or find your song. It's not tied to the system here. It's more so for reference when, say, if I'm announcing something, you can find it. It's coming out this Friday. Check the 25th. And if I'm the host here, I could see, it says that's when it's coming out. So I can use that as information. The system release date is the date that it goes live in our system. So you can pre-schedule. So if you did the uploads today and you want it to go out next Monday, you just change the date to next Monday. Once you process it, it'll stay hidden in our system, and then Monday becomes searchable. So you can pre-schedule things, which is great. If you have a lyricist or composer, you're going to put their name and information in. If you have a distributor, this is automatically set to your account name, but you can change it. Publisher, label, same thing. We have an interesting option for licenses. So if you want to, this is where you can give permission for the artist or for the radio station to do more. So if you want, you can have it played in the background for advertisements. You can coordinate with them if it wants to be on a compilation, or allow them to say, hey, I like your song. Maybe we can put it on a compilation, and they'll reach out and talk to you about that. And then this one's really neat, available for use in podcasts. So podcasting doesn't have what we call a copyright tariff. So what you're required to do is either get permission from the artist, or it has to be copyright free for it to be considered legal. If you select this, it means that anyone that's doing a podcast who accesses the content here, you've given them permission to put it on their podcast. So you won't get royalties from it or anything like that. But obviously, some podcasts are quite popular, and to have your content on the podcast is obviously a decision that you can make. We also have some of these special characteristics that we recommend that you take a look for. Like you said, a bunch of people are looking for very specific programming. If I am an Indigenous producer, I would want to highlight that I'm Indigenous, and therefore other people that are looking for that content from Indigenous artists would be able to find me and everybody else with that similar characteristic. So these are all self-disclosed. If you wish to share that information, please do so. If you don't, that's not a problem as well. But if you don't fit those characteristics, please don't select them. And then finally, we're looking at MAPL. So this is what is considered Canadian content. You have to match 2 of the top 4 of the MA, the P, and the L to be considered CanCon in Canada, or 1 of the bottom 3. And those are sort of specialty ones that are usually a lot dated, or something really interesting like fully instrumental. This system's currently in place. There may be some changes coming down the future. We'll find out. But right now, this is how artists are considered CanCon. We are not requiring you to be CanCon compliant to be on the system. We are only requiring you to consider yourself Canadian and coming from a Canadian residence. And I don't think it takes American or world credit cards. The point of the system is if you're Canadian, we want to share your content, whether or not you're classified as CanCon. So if I was going forward with this, I could just select some. I need to add a title, test jam, or and I can save, and now it will take me. Oops, I didn't upload some album art. I should probably upload some album art. There we go. And I didn't pick a release date. As you can see, some of these are required. So the more information that you get on, the better it is to be able to find. Now what it's going to be asking for me is the songs that I'm looking for. You have to upload in WAV or FLAC format. It's really important to do that so that you get the highest quality content available for you, so that there's that opportunity to make sure that artists who go ahead and sort of get that are the ones that are, the best possible quality of the song. So if you don't have one of these versions, we suggest you try to find your way to do that. Like, again, taking an MP3 and then converting it to WAV and uploading it, you've lost that quality. So we want you to have the high quality. You can upload multiple songs or not. This uploaded nice and quick in the background. And what we suggest you do at this point is rename the song title to make sure it matches what you're looking for. So I think this one was called You. And then I'm going to call it the original mix. If you have an ISRC number, you can put that there. If you know what it is, great, go for it. If you don't, click the little link and it'll tell you more about that. But it's kind of like an international fingerprint. If you have a beat per minute or not, it'll allow you to upload that or identify that as well. And when you're done, simply hit save, and your song will be ready and processed. Before I go forward, there's also this little pop-out button here. When I uploaded the release, all the information that was put on the release is being applied directly to the song itself. So if I click here, I can see that the system dates are there, the genres, the hypergenres are all there from what I typed into the release. But if I have a 10 album song and half of them are house music and half of them are blues, I need to be able to differentiate. So it's at this point on the song option that you're going to be able to change. And let's say I want to make this one available for podcasts, but not the other ones. There's also interesting categorization that you can add to each and every song. Again, we saw these artist characteristics before, but we can also do things like, is it an angry song? Yes. And is it, we've got all these tags that you can add to it, right? So this one is also epic. An angry epic song sounds pretty interesting to me. And that's the point, is when I'm searching to find this content from the radio side, I can search by the mood and the genres and the characteristics and so on, just to give you more possibilities of being found. So that's how you adjust the individual songs. If you've messed up, you can always go back to the songs page here as well, and you'll find it. When I hit save, it's going to then take me to, this is the songs page. If I click songs, you'll see it looks very familiar. The songs here on the left are all the songs that are live and searchable. The songs on the far right are songs that are missing data and information. So I missed something when I was uploading this version here, so I would have to go back in and check. It won't let me put the song out until I fix that. And then here's our songs awaiting for payment, and we are seeing that there's the song right there that I made. In order to process the payment, you simply select the release. You can do it individual or you can do it one by one. You can see, for example, here's one that's got a whole bunch of releases to it, and I can select that whole release. When I've got the ones that I want to put out as a release, I click the green button, select payment, and it's now going to take me to my cart. There's the upload that I did. It was 2022. You can see the song name. I selected as a single. There's my $7. Oh, here's my test for the album from Zoo's Petals. There's all the song and artist names in it. There's my $50. We can see that my total is set for $57 before we sort of move forward. Note that once you pay for a release, it becomes locked and you can't add or subtract songs to it. When I hit continue here, it's going to take me to my second page of the cart, and you'll notice that there's a change in the price because I've got my referral code discount has been applied to this, and I'm getting a discount on these amounts. So instead of paying 57, I'm paying 44. There is tax because I'm based out of Ontario. So there's a great little option for that. And if you happen to have coupons or other discounts, like you said, you can pick up through our stuff on social media every once in a while. We did one for January with 22% off type thing. You can go ahead and add that in. And when you apply, it'll change the price point. Billing information is here. It's done through Stripe. It's a third parter. It has nothing to do with the with us. So we don't see your passcodes or anything of that nature. It is a third party and sort of set aside. So it's up to you. But it does require a Canadian card. So when you hit complete purchase, what you'll notice is that if I went back to the songs page, those songs would be in this live searchable section and no longer waiting for payment. And essentially, if you put it live right away, it's on the website and ready to go. So as I mentioned, you can take a look at the individual artists, and I can edit artists and see, how many plays they've had, folders, tags, how many songs. We notice we started at 20, now we're up to 21. You can check out the releases. And again, if you stop halfway through that upload process, it's not going to drop everything from you, but they're going to be available here. And you can see there's the, if I was to search, I'd probably find test February 2022. There's the information. I can get back into editing it and uploading and all those other things. The other option too is if you have multiple songs, you can on a release, you can drag and drop them here to make sure that they're in the right order, which is often decently important. When all of that's done, which is fantastic, we recommend you go to the messaging and outreach button. This button here, if someone wants to contact and talk to you from a radio station, this is how they can reach you, and they'll send a message. You should get an email if you get a message here. When you signed up, it'll say you got a message, log in, and then you can check and you can see there's an interview request from this individual that says, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. Can we do an interview for this type of thing? That's great. And you can reply back to them. The other option under messaging and outreach is this tab marked outreach. When you click it, it'll open up a new window. And on this window, there's going to be information for you to help with you sending music to radio stations. I'm not going to go over this right now. Eloissa might take a crack at it a little bit later on, but this is up-to-date information on the names of the station. And if you were to spread it down, it'll tell you who to contact, what sort of formats they're looking for, and so on. So we encourage you to use that after you've done that upload process. And that's essentially the distro platform as a whole. So, one of the questions there was, once the whole process is done, how do you submit and connect with all the radio stations? That's the contact list using the outreach button. Beyond that, the content itself is live and in the system. So if we have some time, I can log in on the music side of things and I can browse and show you how people find content as well. So that's another possibility as we kind of get going through it as well. I made a contact list for my own research, sent a press release, but didn't know that was exactly what you'd be doing. And that's another great example of, what some of the things Eloissa is going to share about. What are the recommendations once you've got this content ready to go out or has gone out? How do you follow up? What do you include? And so on. So we'll jump back into the PowerPoint, the Prezi here, and move on to that. So Eloissa.
Yeah. So for best practices, we did do a deeper dive into this. You can find it on Earshot Distro. From the report that we conducted between radio stations and musicians. But basically, from the first get-go, one of the best practices is reaching out to stations. Like we said, doing the outreach, just do a little introduction of yourselves, like, hey, my name is da-da-da, I just uploaded to Earshot Distro, I'm a local artist, whatnot, whatever fits, and you can do a little introduction. We do like to keep the interaction between stations and artists. They both like that. And then you just drop the link that you can get from Distro. And as long as they're logged in, they will be able to listen, download your song, support it, etc. It's just a great way to do the extra steps, because stations can browse the site, they can look for new songs, stuff like that, but it's always good to reach out to them. So that is the number one thing we recommend. That is like the basic we recommend for you when you're trying to do uploading process and stuff like that. And then what to include. Definitely different stations want different things, but the basic is, hey, this is what I do, this is my type of music, the genre your music falls into. It's still expanding the system, so if you can't find a genre that fits your category in the system, definitely choose the one that fits closest to it. We have a list of the ones that we need to add and we need to update, but always mention that's always good. The pronunciation of the song or your artist name, sometimes it's really important for stations to know how to pronounce it and stuff like that when they say it on air. For metadata, whenever you send stuff to radio stations, if it's by email without using Distro, just by email, you need to include the metadata in these files, because that is very important for them. They get many emails, many songs, and they get lost if you don't put it correctly in their system. But when you upload into the system, we have WAV files, which don't include metadata, but that is the stuff you include when you fill in your info. So we kind of do it for you in the system, and when stations download it, they'll have it on their back end. And the contact list, which is something we touched on, it is very useful, and also it's a great tool. There's a search bar at the top, and you can just put stuff like pop, and it will shorten the list, and it will show up the preferences of stations that prefer pop. So then you can minimize the list, really focus on stations that will most likely play your music, so you don't waste your time or waste their time as well. That's always good. A note, when you email in radio stations, if not using the system, they don't play songs that come from Bandcamp or SoundCloud because they don't have the appropriate copyright. So if you send them a link to that, or a link that they will have to pay for, they won't listen to it, they won't play it. It's just something that they can't do. So always make sure to not send those. Appropriate ones are Dropbox and stuff like that. But what else? Oh, another big recommendation that we have is, if you have a bunch of singles, really old back catalog that you still want to share, we recommend you make like a bundle of songs and make it into an album. It is also most likely for stations to play albums than to play singles, in the sense that stations get so busy in the capacity of stations, so it is faster for them to download an album with 10 songs than download 10 individual songs. So if you put all of them in a bundle, it will be most likely to get downloaded and played.
And it saves you money.
Yes, it does. Overall, yeah, because you can do from 8 to 20 songs. You can do so many songs that you have, just fill it up to 20 and then share that, and then that will get your stuff out there into the system. But I think those were a couple of the main things I wanted to mention that pretty important.
Yeah, a couple other things to add. If you're, if you reach out to stations, feel free to offer the opportunity to do interviews. They love doing that. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to tour again. So this is a great opportunity to say, "Hey, I saw that you downloaded my song on Earshot Distro. I went and looked up your station and found the show they were on. I'm coming to town in a couple weeks. Would you be interested in hosting a tour or having me on the show?" That kind of thing. Really great opportunity for connections. Bunch of people host shows. If you go to earshot-daily.ca, that is a radio show that gets produced by a different host every day of the week and is made available for about 10 or so radio stations across the country. So, and that content is only from artists that are uploaded to Earshot Distro, which is kind of neat. And if you reach out and send a connection there, AJ is our coordinator, and say, "Hey, can you play my song on one of your upcoming shows?" He'll play it for you there. So it's kind of like an easy way to get an extra player too. Some of the other wants from stations are liners or intros. So, "Hey, this is Barry. I'm here from Ottawa, and you're listening to CKDU. Thanks for tuning in. Here's my latest song." Those types of things that if you can add along, they get little bonuses, and stations are lovely for that. So you can maybe check with them. Same thing if you're tagging on social media when you have a new release. That's a great idea. Just don't tag them for every single one every 2 minutes type thing. But if you have something that's ready and available, feel free to tag on social media to the radio stations that you're looking at, and you're more likely to get noticed. Same thing with something like swag. Stations love t-shirts, stickers, posters, all that. Just be sure to ask before you send anything in, because they may not be interested in it, but often they are. And what I'd finally recommend that you do is set a Google alert for yourself. And it's a great way that if songs or artists get on these stations, sometimes their playlists are posted. Sometimes it picks up on the national charts, all those types of things. And it's a great way to be able to track your content as you start to put it out and about. I think that's all we have here. There was Eloissa, this is your the report. So if you go to earshot-distro.ca, click the About button. There's one that says how to distribute music to Canadian radio. Do you want to outline very quickly what we've found here?
Yeah, so these are a couple of things that touched on. This was the overall gathering from the report, not only about Distro, but in general. Since we're a nonprofit, we obviously understand if people don't want to use the system exactly, but they still need tips on how to reach out to stations. So this is for a couple of things that we mentioned. Yeah, using Dropbox, Google Drive, MP3s with full metadata. Include if you're a local artist in the subject line, or it always include music submission so it doesn't get lost in the mail. A couple do nots and extra things to include if you want to grow that connection with stations and stuff like that. Definitely no Spotify links, none of that. And yeah, what is other recommendations that we added? Yeah, if you love your song to distro, using the podcast option is really cool to just create more reach with other audiences that might not listen to your music otherwise or find your music otherwise. But yeah, just overall recommendations that we suggest you guys try out when reaching out to stations or reaching out to people in general about your music. Yeah, you might get better results. But
So that's sort of takes us to the end of our presentation and chat on what Earshot Distro is. As you said, almost all of this is available at earshot-distro.ca. Signing up is free. Use the code that's scrolling along at the bottom there. You'll get your 25% off your first 10 uploads. Yeah, reach out to support at earshot-distro.ca if you have any help, and either Eloissa or myself will do our best to be able to support there.
yeah.
So that takes us to the end, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions that may come up here as well.
I'm going to see if there's any other questions that come in. So this is amazing. Like, this is very interesting what you guys are doing. I am actually excited to start using your tool as an artist manager, and like growing my roster now and having artists from different genres. I recently decided to scout for a country act, so hopefully, the tool can still be beneficial. What would you say that you guys get a lot of country artists, or what would you say is the genre that reaches out and uses your services the most?
It varies. We're over 16,000 songs now on the system, and it's growing around 100 or so songs a week. And the amazing thing about it is that often it's there's a really wide spread of genres that get picked up. Country, pop, folk, rock are probably your big four artists, just like they are, or your four genres, just like they are for most listeners. But if you happen to have Canadian reggae, Canadian classical music, those genres are so hard to find Canadian content for, that the hosts of the shows are scouring places to find it. So having your sort of niche genre up here is actually quite more likely that you're going to get noted in that sense than other ways. And that's why we suggest, if you are sending out notifications to people and whatnot, try to do your best to make sure the one sheet is easily findable, that your title has the artist name, if it's a song, new release, the genre, those types of things, because the stations are very often are run by volunteers, and the capacity to do the work is very hard. So it's a challenge to be able to connect all those things as well. So a couple of ideas and examples, but country music, very popular within our networks, and like I said, one of those areas that will be beneficial to get your music out to.
Amazing. So yeah, so people that are new watching, the live stream right now, the Latinx Nation is going to be doing monthly webinars to educate artists and managers. So we're very excited and we're very grateful that you guys participated on this webinar today. Very educational, and honestly, a lot of artists, I know they are interested in getting radio play, but they feel like it's so like out of their hands in a way. Like, they feel like, oh, I need like a manager, or if I email them, they're not going to answer me. But this tool is literally perfect for them. It's exactly what they needed. It's exactly what the music industry needed for these artists to be able to break through and start getting that radio recognition that they're searching for.
And I would just jump in to say that one of the strong suits that the network has is we broadcast in 65 different languages across the country. So there are genres and shows that fit almost everyone. My original hometown of Guelph, Ontario, for example, has a 5-hour Central and South American radio block that is incredibly popular, with both locals and internationals trying to both get news back at home, but also hear what's coming out. So, and they've won national awards and things like that before in the past as well. So, taking a little bit of time to do that outreach, to do the outreach, and then to do a bit of scouring based in the towns and the cities you're aiming for. People love getting new music, and if you're able to put them in your content in the right spot, there's a good chance you'll get a couple spins or two on the air as well.
Great, wonderful. So we know that you guys have provided us with a promo code that's right under here for everyone to see, and we're going to be posting on the social media as well, so everybody can have access to that promotional code. And thank you guys so much for doing this. We're grateful.
No, of course. Thank you for having us.
So I think there's a quick question. What's the social media promotion for artists that sign up? So right now you would use that referral code that you have there. And if you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, we will often post coupon codes. So after the sign up, but right before the payout, there's that extra little discount. I don't think we have anything live right now. Sometimes they pop up for various different spaces and reasons. So that's one of the reasons why we encourage you to also follow along with the social media. And that social media is neat because we do things like an artist of the day and a song of the week, and we highlight what went out on Earshot on the charts and what went out on Earshot Daily and all those types of things as well. So we're trying to build a bit more of a community as well. There was a question here. Digital distribution, Apple Music. I would say if the question is, can you use Apple Music, as in like the upload and the buy option to distribute your content? The answer is no. The way broadcasting rights work in Canada is you're technically supposed to be given the content with the permission to put it on the air. And that's where the radio stations pay a licensing fee to do so. So if you are sending content out, I think Eloissa pointed it out in the presentation as well. Don't send links to buy content, and don't send links to things like Spotify or Bandcamp or YouTube or SoundCloud, because they technically don't have the legitimate authority to give you the music that could then be broadcasted. And that's why we say Earshot Distro is the way to go, or if you're using another service or email or physical CDs still, then that gives that legal permission. Now, nobody's really checking on any of that, but it definitely does not sound good when you're playing and suddenly an ad pops up because they've streamed your song off of YouTube. So we highly encourage those types of practices as well, not only for the fact that they're technically illegal, they also don't create great radio.
Thank you so much for answering that. We also want to give thanks to StreamYard Productions for helping us today. And I did have a question based on when you sign up. I did notice that you had for section independent artists and you had record label. Would you say that an artist management company could go in under the record label title, or what approach should they take?
Yeah, we suggest that if you are supporting more than one artist, or you're not the artist directly and you have the rights to upload, we suggest you select the record label option, because that will give you more access to manage more people. and add to it. If you're the independent artist, all it does is it takes away one layer of complexity. It's the same, you get the same things, and we can switch you between the two if you need to, but there's no other benefit than that.
Yeah, definitely. If you do the whole process and sign up, and then you realize you want to switch your account, you can just email support, and then I can switch it up for you. It's pretty simple. So yeah, either way, whatever works best for you. And like, you can also add people. Like Barry went over organization settings. You can just add people if you just want other people to have access to your account. Maybe not necessarily do the uploading process. Maybe if you have a publicist, if you want to look around, stuff like that, you can do that too.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll do our best to answer any questions if they come along.
Yes.
Gonna give it another minute, see if there are any more questions coming in for us. And I also did notice you had mentioned that the artist can also kind of do like a follow-up email and try to schedule radio interview, like an interview with the radio. So a good approach for that would be saying, hey, I use this service, I want to reach out, see if I could do a potential interview. What would you say, in your professional opinion, would draw their attention? What would make them more inclined to wanting to do like a radio interview with the artist?
Yeah, I think some of the suggestions that we put out earlier are best options. Being authentic, sharing information about your location or why the song was made, if there's a meaning behind it, if there's a special occasion that's tied to it. Those are some of the big things that draw that attention. As Eloissa said, some of these stations receive 50 to 100 submissions a day. So finding that content's very challenging to do so. So anything that can give you that little personal connection that can have you stand out just a little bit more will help with that awareness and interaction. Less form-esque, more personal, usually tends to help in that sense. And again, easy access to things like one click here and it takes you to the download option, and here's what it sounds like, and here's some of the other artists or labels that have played us before in the past. Those types of things are pretty important as well.
Right, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for doing this. And I see the comment now. Thank you, Barry, Eloissa, so much for participating and helping to educate, the Canada audience, the Canadian audience. This is amazing, and I'm very excited, and I look forward to working with you guys and using your services.
Great to chat tonight. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you. Have a good night.
I hope everyone has a great night.